All right, good morning, everyone. Today's Monday, the 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. So thank you to everybody that is military. I'm sure it's always a very emotional day for people that know people that were in that time, their family, their parents. I don't know if you guys ever been there. We went to Hawaii in November of 2018, and that was actually Mitch's first duty station. So he took us there. He lived there for like 2 years, and we got to see one of the aircrafts that he helped like build and make, and it's like still standing there. And then he taught us a lot about the Pearl Harbor time and stuff, and it's just very emotional to see all that stuff, and it just kind of makes you realize how we're so blessed to be living in America, and that but then it also makes you realize that anytime, we are vulnerable at any time. So it makes you realize how blessed we are to be safe, and each day is so precious. So anyways, this morning, every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, when you become a director, there is a leadership call with the home office and with Deb Bonin and Jason Harwood, and they usually have some type of a lesson that they focus on. And so today's lesson was Orville Thompson's keynote with I forget what year, but it was the theme was Sing. I think it was Indianapolis that we were at. And basically, I'm so sorry, I like crust in my eyes, but so he talked about how important it is as a leader to build trust. And I had so many aha moments that I really, really wanted to share this with you guys, because it brought me back to the beginning of my business, to a part in my business that I feel like I kind of lost a lot of trust with some people, and why I kept trust with a lot of people, and how I built it. And I want you guys to think about your businesses as well, and maybe you'll be able to reflect about why you have trust with your team members, why you may not, why you want to start building it, and how. And because as a leader, the most important thing to have, even as a consultant as well, they say people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And that's how you build loyalty. And it's the same thing, loyalty with your team members. People can I've had literally people tell me that they're quitting their sponsor, their business, because they don't like their sponsor. And I've, tried to encourage them that, you don't have to do everything that has to do with your sponsor, that you could just do your own thing and connect with somebody else that you do connect with. And I've kind of taken people under my wing and helped them out, and tell them that, you make your own destiny. But some people have such a very fixed mindset that it bothers them that person makes money off them or whatever. And it's really kind of sad that they realize that they're letting another person affect their business and their future. And so I want, if you've ever had that thought process, I don't know if anybody that's listening ever went that way, because here's the reality. You're not going to be BFFs with every single person you sponsor. And you're not going to have a relationship that you may not even have a good relationship to the fact that you have anything other than Scentsy as a connector. And that's okay, as long as they find something or someone that they connect with. So how do we build trust? One of the words that we hear a lot in this, well, two of them in this business, is systems and consistency. And so it literally took me back. One of the things you guys hear me say a lot on my trainings is that one of the first things I did when I first started Scentsy is I started a training call my first month of my business. And that's because I built a team my first month of my business. I wanted a way to be able to connect with them and talk with them and kind of talk about what we were doing. We were learning together. I had 5 people on my team my first month. I went straight to Star Consultant, didn't know what the heck that meant. But all I knew is that I wanted to know what we were all doing, and we could get on and powwow together and learn together. And I did know that consistency was important. People need to know that they can, if all else fails, that you can't pick up the phone when they call you, when you can't schedule time with you, whatever, that they can rely on the fact that on this day at this time, they will have you to answer questions, for support, for training, whatever, and that they can never say to home office, to their director, their sponsor, or well, you're their sponsor possibly, or whatever, if you're their director, they can never say, I never had the support from this person. Because you have a record of saying like for me, for instance, every Monday at 5 o'clock at Pacific Standard Time, except for major holidays and major emergencies, I am always available live for my entire group, my entire organization. Nobody could ever say that Jess is never available. And that is so important to say. Team meetings prior to COVID, for 9.5 years, well, I'd say 8.5 because it's been a year now that we've had team meetings. First Wednesday of the month consistently, even if I was the only person and nobody showed up, I had a team meeting that they knew they could show up live and have Jess live and in person. Not that that meant anything, but they can have a human being with blood and breath beating, and they can talk to me and have the energy of a human being talking back to and forth to them. There is no way, exactly, Melissa said consistency and reliability. They can rely on you. That even if they aren't reliable and they don't show up to your meetings or they don't show up to your calls, they know that when their life changed, if for some, I have this happen all the time, somebody will randomly show up at a call or a meeting and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I've never seen you. They're like, I had the random day off and I decided to jump on the call because I knew that, and it makes me feel so good that they're like, I know what's going on. I know that Mondays at 5 o'clock that you're going to be doing a call. And it makes me so happy. It's not like I called them and said, hey, do you have the day off today? They knew that it always happens. So if their schedule changes, they can rely that there's always going to be a Monday call. Okay. And if there isn't, they know that they're going to get an email or something that's and a Facebook blast saying that it's not going to happen. So what are you doing in your business to make sure that your teams know that you're reliable and that they can trust you as a upline in some way? What are you doing consistently and to build trust? All right. They talked about, and basically we always say when you show up, you go up. If you're not showing up for your team consistently, again, that is going to be very hard for them to think that you're reliable as a leader and an upline. Now, I told you I had some ahas. So I guess it was five years before my brother passed, and I know this brings up, but this is so important, you guys. Everybody prior to that happening, they knew my character, okay? So they knew that I was reliable, I was diligent, I was very, very disciplined, and that no hell or high water, I would show up to every team meeting, I would always have a team meeting or call, even if it was by myself. And so that was my character. They knew that I was trying my hardest, that Jess is always doing my best. And even if I'm not the best and I have the wrong information, it doesn't mean that they know that even if it's wrong, that it's coming from the heart. I'm not trying to steer you wrong. But if people after that didn't know who I was and didn't know my character and didn't know how hard and consistent I was, they didn't have that trust built with me. So when I was very, very wishy-washy, I would cancel team meetings. I was late to team meetings all the time. I was just very unreliable because I was depressed, right? That people in that bracket of time didn't quite get the trust built with me, and my character wasn't exactly looked at as reliable. Now, there's also people that said they didn't know the difference because they didn't know me either way. And so, but because I kept my team meetings every Monday, and then my monthly my Zoom calls, every Monday, and my monthly team meetings every Wednesday, just those two consistency in a month, or because I think I had them only once a month. As far as team calls, the Zooms, I stopped them from every Monday because I just couldn't do it mentally and emotionally. So I was like, I need to show up for my team. I knew that, but I just emotionally couldn't do more than once a month. So that was showing up twice a month, okay? And so with people that were brand new to my organization, they at least saw some type of commitment from me. And so they didn't know any difference that was less commitment than Jess usually gave. Okay. So they were okay with it. They're like, well, at least I know that I'll see her twice a month if I need it. So there was a little bit of trust that was built. And so again, they will build loyalty to you as far as showing up for your meetings if they see that you're doing the same. Let's see what other notes that I have. Okay, so also, one thing that was really interesting that Deb brought up was it's important to know the definition. What is your definition of attainability, or what's the attainability of trust? Because here's the thing, and reliability. Because one person may think that that reliability means I have to be available every time the phone rings. I have to pick it up because it's a consultant. That was just in the very beginning of my business. I would pick it up at 3 a.m. because oh my gosh, what if they think that I don't care? They're working their business. They're a different time zone. Oh my, I want them to know that I care and that I'm here to them and they have support. And I was just so like, oh, I don't want them to think I don't care about them and that they don't have support. And that I was so stressed out. But that's not reliable and that's not attainable to be available 24/7, is it? So we have to make sure we create a attainable definition of what reliable is. So I had to, unfortunately, I had to hear it from one of my team members, one of my superstar consultants that was about to hit director, to say, Jess, I don't want to be a director. And I was like, whoa, why? She's like, I don't want to do what you do. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? She goes, I don't want to be available 24/7 like you are. I can't do it. I just can't. And I was like, well, neither can I. And she goes, well, if that's what it means to be a director, then I don't want it. And so it really made me think. I had to have somebody come and tell me, beat me over the head to make me realize that this isn't something that I can keep up. If I was doing that for 10 years, I would have quit, right? I would have burnt myself out so hard and thought Cincy was like, I would have hated it, right? So it was such a blessing that my team member, I built such a good relationship with her as a friendship that she was able to say exactly what was on her mind and say, Jess, this doesn't look fun. You're not having fun. You're stressed out all the time. And it made me go, oh my gosh, thank you so much for being so honest with me, because you want to create a lifestyle that people actually want, right? You want to create a lifestyle that is free and flexible and attainable, right? So sometimes it's a little, you kind of have to go like, oh, you got to set the rules. And even if they don't understand it at the time, we got to set consistency hours and be very strategic with what we do. Again, two sides, guys. We may end up doing stuff that isn't necessarily right for the time, for that specific situation. But we have to be also very specific because we are teaching our future directors, right? So for instance, I'm gonna actually use a perfect example for this morning. Today with the child being launched, and I want to teach people that they need to get their information from the news tab. I am not going to, it's not my job to basically recreate the news tab, right? They need to utilize what's already there, all right? But I didn't know that the queuing system was still in place. So when somebody tried to go in and actually read what it was about, it kicked her out and she couldn't read it anyways. So that obviously wasn't helpful at the time, but my system of trying to teach people that I'm not going to give you the information, I'm going to give you the source, and then it's going to make you go there so you know how to find the information, right? But that specific situation wasn't useful because of the queuing system. But my system is important, right? But at that time, I was told that what was happening, so then I had to adjust my system a little bit because of that. So I was able to say, well, it basically says that there will be more information coming, but they didn't tell us exactly when they're going to get their warmers and all that stuff. It just says, keep your eye out on the news tab for opportunity to get more orders or to order more of the child warmers. But what I'm basically trying to say is that You have to be confident enough in your leadership that people may not understand what you're doing and why, but it has to be a system and consistently that is going to make you be able to run your business within a solid and attainable way. Because if they don't, if the thing is they might not understand it, but when they are interested in becoming a leader and they may be becoming overwhelmed and they come to you saying, how the heck do you do this? You're going to be able to say, this is what I do and why, okay? And then it's going to become attainable. Like the person that I told you that came to me almost 10 years ago and said, this isn't I couldn't tell her this is why I'm doing it and why. I was just running around like a crazy person, right? But now when I do things, I'm able to say, well, this is why I do it. This is when I do it. And not always, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but there are, for the most part, I do things for a specific reason, for my own purposes, in order to make sure that I could be running my business effectively. And I also can manage my time outside of Scentsy effectively as well. So, let's see. Okay, so one thing that Jason talked about, which was so, like, it seems obvious, but being in this business, it made me realize how many people don't have any type of system in their life. Like when we start to work with our customers, they'll say like, oh yeah, I'll meet you on Friday at Starbucks at 2. Yeah, cool, I'll see you there. And we put it in our calendars, or new consultants don't know this either. We have to literally say, put it in your calendar, set several reminders until you start to get used to having your business and life on a calendar, because Scentsy, you have so many tiny little tasks that you have to do. Call this person, pick that up, drop that off, call that person again, do this, do that. Like there's like 1,000 things in one day. And if you don't have everything strategically put in your calendar and reminders and, written down so you can check it off, either nothing gets done or only some things get done, and or you get overwhelmed and stressed out, right? You have to be very good with your time. And so we have to realize that we can't rely on our brain. Our brain doesn't have the reliability to handle everything that we need to do. So we have to create some type of system in order to control and handle our daily tasks and life. And so it's going to be different with everybody. Some people are going to be a checklist in paper. Some people are going to be digital and checklist. I'm that way. I need both. I run mainly on digital now, but I also like when I'm in my office, I do like to check it off physically. It's like a satisfaction thing. But if I'm running around like, out of my office, I have a digital version of checklists of what I do, and everything goes in my calendar on my phone. It took me years to not have a actual planner. Everything, when I started my business, everything literally from, I used to use the hairstylist planner, they're like 30 minutes, like every 30 minutes, it's just like a thin little calendar, and it literally marks off every single 30 minutes for the entire day, because I would seriously schedule myself for, what I'm doing for every 30 minutes. And that worked for me for several years because I was doing so much in a day. But now I've transferred it over to my phone. So you have to decide, and that's going to be your reliability for you. You can't tell you, even though you think, oh, of course I'm not going to forget to call my mom really fast on her birthday. Of course I'm not. You know what I mean? But when things are going nuts, when we have a child launch, going crazy, and you have, hundreds of team members messaging you and calling you and texting you and this and that, asking questions, and, everybody wants your time, and you're trying to balance out whose questions are most time consuming, whose are most, not time consuming, time sensitive, and actual questions that do actually need me to answer, or that they can, if I give them a minute, they'll probably find it if they actually look type questions. Your mind kind of goes crazy. And if you let it, and you're going to develop the ability to say, okay, this isn't something I need to stress out about. It's going to work out. There's no sensey emergency, right? But there are going to be things that you may forget if you don't have a resource that helps your brain remember. So I know a lot of you are seasoned and you may have some type of a system that does that, but I want you to also remember there are very new leaders that are on your team that this is all brand new to. They're like, oh, system, calendar, put it in my calendar, what? They may not have a lot that goes on in their day. They may, like going to the grocery store and getting their kids to bed, maybe the bulk of what they do in a day, which is not a bad thing, but it can be very hard for them to manage all these extra things in their lives, right? Like just yesterday, I have a meeting with somebody that's just rolled up to me from somebody, their sponsor just canceled last month. And we were scheduling a time to talk today. And guess what? She is a young mom, and I said, okay, well, I can't talk with you at that time because that's when the child is going to be launched. She goes, OMG, I forgot. I'm so glad you said something because my husband loves the warmer. So you'd think we think that they know when the child's but it's not their world yet. So that's things that we have to remember, right? That we have to teach them that needs to be put into their calendar. So obviously somebody like her, she has no idea that we have a calendar in the workstation that we can sync to our actual phones, right? To be aware of those things. So those are things that we have to really think about, like, what are things that we think our downline knows about that they don't, and that could really help them with their day-to-day to-dos and to keep them aware, but also will help them with their PRV, which will help them with their, connecting with their clients, all that type of stuff. Okay, so I really want to think, you guys to think about, what does your downline know about your character? What does your downline know about your character? Do they know that you're doing your best? Do they know that you are transparent with them? Or are you coming off as, do you know everything? Here's the reason why I'm asking this, is because sometimes when you're put in a leadership position, I've seen it time and time again. I even had that issue in the beginning, is that I thought I had to be the person that had all the answers, because I thought that was my position, that I'm being paid all this money for them to be the resource. I know it sounds silly, right? But that was what I was so overwhelmed, and so like, I went from no milk in the refrigerator to a consistent income very fast. And I was like, my brain was dealing with a not worthy still. Like, so if I'm making all this money, I better darn well show them that I am doing my part. So my mindset was, I have to know their answers. I have to give them the answers. And that is so far from the truth. So we have to remember, are we being transparent with them? And because the thing is if we come off that we know all the answers, they're going to think they have to know all the answers too, right? And that's one of the biggest struggles I had in my early days. And again, that's why this specific gal gave me my big ahas, is because she not only wanted to not eat, breathe, and sleep Scentsy, but she also didn't want to have to know everything and stress out if she didn't, right? And so leadership, it isn't about knowing all the answers. It's not about, knowing basically knowing all the answers. I just want to emphasize that, because here's the thing, guys, we wouldn't have a workstation with all the answers in there if you become a certain level, and they would turn that all off, right? They would say, oh, you're done. You hit this level. Here's all the tools. Melissa said something. I was wondering how you were able to get on. I didn't have systems. I was like, wow, when I started learning them, that was exactly me. I was all over. It was all or nothing, and I didn't have systems to help myself. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's trial and error, first of all. It's always going to be that. And every level that you get, I mean, this isn't law, this is perspective of Jess, and a lot of other people have shared with me that they have gone through the same thing, that every level phase you go in your business, it's like a season or a phase. You feel like you're starting over because now you're learning something new. You're dealing with a different perspective, a different group of people, a different responsibilities. Because, okay, like for instance, when I promoted my first director, oh gosh, what's my responsibility of having a director, on my team? What do I do now? So it's like, there's so many different phases. And when I really, the most fun I had about leadership is when I realized that we're all consultants. We're all in this together. Everybody has different strengths. And the second we try to use that like seniority status on each other, that's when we struggle, really, honestly. Yeah, the title's there. There is stewardship that is going to be there when it needs to be there. But the second we try to throw that, like, you're my director, I'm your superstar director, blah, blah, blah around, that's when we stop learning. And that's when your true potential is capped. Everything has to have a system. Everything. I know that can sound overwhelming, but every single person has a system in their life they don't even realize. Your system is when you go to sleep, when you get up, what do you do? I personally, I don't do anything unless I literally roll off my bed and go to my knees to pray. That's one of my systems. I don't literally, my feet don't hit the ground until I am done praying. Then what do? I go and brush my teeth. So if we look at it as what systems do I already have in place, then it kind of makes it not as daunting of what systems do I have to put into my business. Let me look at my notes. Oh, I did do some screenshots that Jason gave us. So let me see what it says. Okay. And I'll share them with you guys if it's something that's appropriate. Okay, so let me share this. So we all, it says if you don't have skills, you don't have the ability, you learn. These are the things that Orville talked about. A lot of people, when we get in these positions, we feel like, oh, I'm not qualified, or I don't know what I'm doing. Well, the thing is that a growth mindset, as long as you understand that there's an opportunity to learn the skills. Everything that I know in my business isn't something that I walked into Scentsy knowing at all. And to be honest with you, there's a lot that I've had to relearn. It's familiar, but I've had to kind of relearn skills that I've already had, but I wasn't implementing for a long time. If you're not reliable, if you are easily distracted, always late, cancel often, practice being that way, being reliable as a habit. And so that's something when I first started Scentsy, one of my habits that I did to train myself is that I would, and I'm still, as you guys can see, I don't start my day until after, I don't get in the shower till after 12 o'clock every day. And that's because I work late. And so what I'm doing is I asked myself, when I was the most productive in my business, what was I doing? I had to realize that I'm not a morning person. I've tried to be a morning person for years because of all these books telling me that the early bird gets the worm and all that stuff. And yes, there is very much a truth to that, but I'm constantly fighting against it because it's just not who I am. I'm not productive in the morning. So I finally had to realize that Jess works best at night when kids are in bed, my husband's at work. I don't have to feel guilty about taking time away from my children when they're at lunchtime, now that they're distance learning. So, and that's what happened with me because they were little kids. They were tiny when I started my business. So I couldn't really work during the day. I had to work at night. And so I started implementing that again. And that is what has been helping me get back in my work mode and my production mode of actual effective production. So I literally start my real effective days after I take a shower around 12 o'clock. Like I do what I need to do. Like I do my training, my leadership call at 9, and I usually do the 10 o'clock with you guys on Mondays, or the launch. And then I do this, but then I really start my actual day after 12 o'clock. So think about what you can start practicing to see what can turn into a habit. So instead of just saying, gosh, I'm just always late, that's just who I am. Stop saying that out loud, first of all, because you're putting it out in the universe. One thing that I realized that I had to catch myself saying is, there was something recently that I noticed I was saying a lot. And anyways, I don't remember right now, but I had to stop saying that out loud, which is a negative thing. I don't know what it was, but I stopped and I realized that the verbiage had to change, and I had to say yet. I'm not this specific way yet. And it really makes a huge difference. If you show poor judgment, it could be that you simply lack experience. So get some. So here's the thing. If you feel like you're not qualified to do one-on-one coaching calls with your team, that's a big thing I hear on a regular basis with new leaders. Like, I don't know how to do coaching calls. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to help them. Here's the thing is you got to start anywhere. I didn't have somebody sit me down and say, okay, Jess, this is what you say when you have a team member. No, I just scheduled time and said, okay, let's talk. What's going on in your team, your meeting? It hasn't been until this year, you guys, and I started in 2011, that Scentsy just started giving us training on how to do coaching. Literally, I'm like, okay, this would have been awesome, for the last 10 years. But this year they started actually I'm happy to say there's some things that I've been doing well because I've been reading a lot of books and implementing them into but there's a lot of things that I had no idea that I was not doing well, and it's not because of lack of trying, but just lack of knowledge. Honesty is a choice. If you struggle with honesty, you must choose it. So when I tell you guys it's so important to be transparent, as a leader, you're going to gain trust by throwing yourself under the bus. Be honest. If I don't know the answer, or I made a big mistake, that's my bad. If you come off as Miss Know-It-All, it's going to be very hard for people to, respect you and open up to you, because they're going to feel like, gosh, Miss Know-It-All over here, I made a mistake, so I don't want her to know that I made a mistake because she never makes mistakes. And so they're not going to feel like you're their friend, that you're a human being. They're going to feel like you're that snobby boss that they work through in corporate America. And you're not. First of all, you're not their boss. You're not their supervisor. You're their partner in this business. And yeah, you happen to be their upline, and you're there to support them. And you may have experience in where they want to go, but and again, two sides. You want them to have respect for you as somebody that can help them, but you also don't want them feeling like they're the person that they have to feel nervous about talking to. That they made a mistake or whatever. You want them, just like being a parent, you want them to be able to talk to you, but still have the respect as, their parents. It's the same idea. The action to achieve loyalty are pretty simple. Just be loyal. Don't gossip. Don't what's that word say? Melissa, what's that? Disparage? I've never heard of that word.
Disparage.
I have no idea what that means. Don't talk behind someone's back. Don't cheat. Okay. So I'm going to tell you, I'm always transparent with you guys. I will be honest with you. That's hard, because sometimes you want to relate to somebody and you want them to understand that you want them to know that you understand, especially when they are sharing their thoughts about a certain situation. the human in us wants to validate that feeling that they're having, especially if it has to do with somebody that you have a similar situation with. I still struggle with that. I'm not saying that that's something that I gossip behind people's back on a regular basis by any means, but that is something that as a human being, I still struggle with, not validating that, because I want that person to know that they're not crazy or they're not experiencing that, that their concern isn't validated, that doesn't mean it's right. And so it is a hard thing. So I'm only saying that because I don't want you guys to think that you're the only one if that's an area that you struggle with, because that is a human area that a lot of people struggle with. One thing I will say though, the most important thing to do is to not be, they always say cry up. And if you have an issue with a team member, don't go talking bad about your, downline with another downline, because that just doesn't go well. It really doesn't. I can validate that right now, because in the end, again, two sides. You do have stewardship over the team members, and you are their upline. And so that's why I think this business is hard for a lot of people, is because it's very hard to kind of marry and have those in harmony, share your song and make those two things work in harmony, basically, that you can be a leader, but you also can be alongside them as their partner at the same time. So just be loyal. When they said be loyal, make sure that they know that they can come to you, and that you're not going to go to that team member and say, oh, so this is what this person said about you. You know what I mean? When somebody comes to you and shares their thoughts, that needs to stick with you, between you and that person. That, again, if you do share and you share their, if you validate their concern, that's one thing. It's still something that if you can restrain yourself, that's even better. But the last thing you need to do is share any conversation that you have. When somebody comes to you for a one-on-one and confides in you, information that goes nowhere else but your ears. And you do not share that with anybody, even another consultant. Because some people will say, like, oh yeah, I didn't share that with this person, but then you go and jabber with another consultant about it. It's just not good. It never ends well, because they may say they're not going to say anything, but then they end up talking to another consultant that does. Does that make sense? It's just like high school in the end. When you think about it, it just isn't well. And I know some of you are thinking, like, does this really happen? Unfortunately, when you're in a 90% are all women business, yes. So we have to be the people that keeps it in line, basically. Let me see what this one is. Oh, I already did that one. Sorry. He did a couple slides, so I want to make sure that I have them all. Oh, I screenshotted the same one because it was like two of them were blurry. Okay, so this one, gosh, all of them are blurry. Hold on a second. This one better? Nope. All right, I'm not going to share these because they're like really blurry and weird, but I'm going to share what they say. Okay, one says, loyalty is the purest form of trust. Where there is loyalty, love is complete. When loyalty is questioned, love is withheld. In the absence of loyalty, there will be isolation. I'll read that one more time. Loyalty is the purest form of trust. Where there is loyalty, love is complete. When loyalty is questioned, love is withheld. In the absence of loyalty, there will be isolation. I'll actually share my screen, because if you guys want to do a screenshot and just kind of write it down so it's a little bit easier to see, Do you see it, Melissa? Can you shake your head? Do you see the loyalty screen? Okay, so if you want to screenshot that real fast, these are things that Orville said in his keynotes. And give me a thumbs up when you're done, and I'll go to the next one. Okay. Go to the next one. And then honesty. All right, honesty results in appreciation. Those who trust my honesty will appreciate me. If I'm dishonest, the result will be resentment. So like I said, it's so important to not try to act like you know something you don't know, or be somebody that you're not. You know, if that's the thing, we're more relatable and we're more duplicatable when we are human. When we're not trying to act like a robot and know everything and have all of our stuff, have it all together. You know what I mean? There's going to be things that you have really strong strengths in, and you're going to be able to share that with so much conviction, and you rock at it. And don't say that you can't. I'm not saying you can't be confident in your skills, but at the same time, you also don't want to intimidate people. And this is something that I've shared with some people, is that there are areas that this is kind of a silly way of putting it, but I'll say I dumb myself down. I know that's kind of silly how to put it, but I do. I dumb myself down because I don't want people to ever be intimidated by me. I want somebody to feel equal. And I'm not saying that they're dumb. I'm saying I want to put myself in a place that I want them to feel like they're actually even, I lift them up in a way that I will make sure that I have them a chance, I give them a chance to teach me, if that makes sense. I will act like I don't know the answer, even if I do, and I will ask them questions so they can answer them and help build their confidence. And I will let them teach me. And that's what leaders do. And I've learned that, not that that was a natural thing, but when I read it in a book, I don't know which one, I apologize. But it really gave me an aha moment. And that's something that I loved, because even if you do know the answer, you'll be surprised how you learn more about that subject than you actually already knew, because you're getting it from a different perspective, and from somebody else's view. And you'll end up seeing something that, and a different way of looking at it, same thing, perspective, and you'll learn a lot more about it and be able to utilize that concept in a totally different way. And again, you want people to feel, oh wow, my time is up. I have a meeting at 12 o'clock and she's trying to get in. Let me text her really fast that I'm just finishing up, because I do want to finish up this really fast. Hold on one second. Oh, she is right on the dot. You are awesome. I will be with you in just a moment. Sorry guys, one second. Another Zoom. Okay, so basically the thing is that you want to build other leaders. You want to build other people with confidence, and you want them to have the ability to also do the same thing, because your business is only as strong as the people that are in it. And if you're the only person with the knowledge and the strength and the leadership, your business is going to be you're not going to have a very strong foundation, right? So we need to make sure that we give our consultants the ability to feel strong. And so that's why it's important to give them an audience. And the thing is that you're their leader. And so when you give them a chance to learn, give them a chance to teach you, that is going to be a huge confidence lifter, especially depending on how they look at you. I want you guys to look up the 5 levels of leadership. If you're new to this group, we've added a few new leaders from John Maxwell. You can do it on Zoom. I'm sorry, not Zoom, YouTube. And he talks about the different levels. And what I'm going to close with is that you are at a different level with every person you know, because depending on where they met you, it's very hard. They kind of keep you there, okay? And it's very hard to take you to another level, because unless you really, really transform and they really see that difference, and they're ready to, and they're actually growing with you. People tend to keep you where they're comfortable. So if like your family, for instance, if they're not growing at all, they're going to keep you like my family. They keep me as little Jessie. They care less what I've done in my business. They saw me on a big stage at the MGM Grand with 7,000 people I was talking to. They still think, oh, you're a cute little business, even though they're Scentsy consultants. It's because they're not growing either. Okay, so they want to keep me where they know me, which is little Jessie. And I hope that's a good example for you guys. And it's the same thing for all your team members. All right, love you guys. Thank you for showing up. And I hope this is helpful for your leadership. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.